Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Loans on Demand podcast, the show where we help loan officers flip the status quo on real estate agents and put loan officers in the driver's seat. And today we have a special guest with us. We have Angelo Christian, the CEO of Angelo Christian Financial. He's done all kinds of things, helped tens of thousands of people with coaching, real estate. He's also one of the top loan originators in the nation. And just wanted to give you that quick intro. But Angelo, thank you so much for being here, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, awesome, Luke. I have watched your show. I'm a big fan. I really appreciate you for even thinking of me to reach out to me. So that's quite exciting, and very happy to be here today. So thank you so much. Basically, I've been in the lending industry for over 2 decades. We've helped several 100,000 people with my team, to secure funding, and obviously I didn't start here. My background is actually probably, quite different than a lot of other people's. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. And, so I grew up in a very rough upbringing, and actually I'm glad I'm here today I feel very honored that you're even interviewing me. Because my story is from what people tell me and what I had to live through, was quite different. So I grew up here in Houston, and I was raised by a middle-class family, more lower class, middle class. And, my father struggled very hard to survive. We never owned a home. And my mother, she was a waitress at Olive Garden. And so we never knew anything about real estate or investments or money. We were lucky if we could eat that day. We're living in hotels, we lived in our car. So it was a very rough upbringing. My father was just all over the place. In fact, he ended up abandoning us when I was in the 6th grade. I had to drop out of school and work 3 jobs to take care of the family. I had 5 brothers and sisters. So that was kind of, yeah.
Wow.
So I dropped out of school. And on top of that, I was morbidly obese. I weighed almost 400 pounds. So that was the kind of the background, man. And so no big future, no big dreams, just trying to survive. And my favorite movie was Rocky. And so, that movie was kind of like the catalyst to change my life. When I was walking home, I was working at Romano's Macaroni Grill as a line cook, and No Easy Way Out, the song came on from Rocky 4. And it was like a bolt of lightning to change my life. And so I got into shape, lost the weight, got a strict diet, and I put myself back through school, went to college, got my education, finance, and economics at University of Houston. And then I started the mortgage industry in 2005. I worked for AmeriQuest Mortgage Company. At that time was the nation's largest subprime lender in America. And so that's how I basically got started.
Wow, you started. Well, I mean, well, first of all, before we get to the end of that story, that's a crazy story kind of coming up, right? I mean, there's a lot of, I think that's probably though a good foundation for you for, I'm sure there's a lot of struggles and things like that, but it also kind of put a chip on your shoulder of like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna figure this out. And so I love kind of hearing that and the struggles that you went through. Not saying that it was great that you went through the struggles, but I just find that I typically find the biggest lessons in my failures and the hardest times, and those tends to drive you forward and teach you the lessons that you need to learn to kind of get to that next level. And obviously, you don't wish that on anybody.
You're 100% correct. Now, sadly, I can't tell you that I thought like that when I was going through it.
Well, sure, of course not.
It was pretty rough. It's just like when you're, going through some type of intense training. It's hard to program your mind or condition your mind that this is good for me. This is good for me when you're, getting beat up with a stick every day. So, but no, it has. It really, like they say, no pressure, no diamonds. Right. People, what I've learned, and I think that a lot of people that have really succeeded in any area of life, even your business, your show, you look at people like, David Goggins or anyone that's achieved phenomenal success, Sylvester Stallone, they've all talked about handling immense amount of pressure.
Mhm.
And, the more pressure you can take, like Elon Musk says, the more you're going to get out of life. And I do believe that sometimes it's very hard going through it. And
Right.
that kind of translates into loan officer and becoming a successful loan officer is, how much pressure can you take? And that kind of, if you want, I can kind of talk about our business today and how we're built, and especially right
Yeah.
now.
Well, and real quick before we get into that, I think the one thing to note too is that, like, just the tail end of what you were talking about was that you started in the mortgage industry in 2005. So it probably felt kind of easy at first. And then like, it was like almost the worst time to start. Cause like, it was probably like the first year or two, you're like, man, probably seeing a ton of success. I don't know. But then you obviously hit 2007, 8, 9. That was,
Correct.
probably another sort of like, oops, I just went back down that hill,
Yeah, no, it was, well, the thing is that, so at that time, yes, that's exactly how it happened. The first few years were phenomenal. Then 2008 hit. And I was a young guy. I was in my 20s.
Sure.
So I didn't really understand everything that was happening and how to pivot. We did pivot, and then we had to get into, FHA loans and stuff like that because of what happened. But now, being 41, and understanding the market a lot better and what type of loan products and the funding that's out there, we've really diversified ourselves to where we can weather through like what we're going through right now with rising rate environment.
Right. Well, I was going to say it's probably not totally similar to 2008, 9, but it's a similar environment where, rates are going up, inventory shortages are an issue. People's, buying sentiment is low, selling sentiment's pretty low. And so it's interesting that, you get to learn those lessons from those hard times. Again, I mean, going back to that, right? Those hard times probably have allowed you to have the skill set to pivot in times like these. So when did you actually start? I mean, because you own your own brokerage, correct? Or own company? Gotcha. When did that start?
In 2005.
Okay, gotcha.
We started.
So right after, you worked for AmeriQuest.
Yeah. So right after, so the broker started actually. So I left AmeriQuest in August 2005, and that's when I started. That's when I started my company. And so,
gotcha.
Yep. And so, I mean, basically, just like you said, going through the peaks and troughs of the business, it has taught me a lot. And from that, the playbook that we built out today, like you said, rising rate environment, residential is kind of slowing down, but what's gotten busier than ever is commercial and private lending.
Sure.
So, and so that's really where we're seeing huge opportunities, working in the commercial and the institutional, industrial space, doing, giant loans. And that's, because they have a different, mandate with their capital versus, a consumer trying to buy their house.
Right. Of course.
Yeah. So,
and that's cool. I mean, and obviously you've done a lot of other things in regards to, you've written a couple books, I think, here. You've been featured in a bunch of different things. Just as far as, it looks like CNN, Good Morning America, Great Day Houston Chronicle. So all kinds of cool things there, and numerous podcasts, including, this great Loans on Demand podcast here. It's cool that you've accomplished so much. Obviously with the upbringing that you had. So I know we talked a little bit, you have, two different pillars, revenue pillars that you talked about, or, how you kind of think about your business. Like, so is using commercial one of those pillars, or what guys, talk a little bit about that.
So yeah, that's exactly what, how we're structured today and how we've been able to weather through some of the economic cycles is, offering private lending, commercial lending. For example, some of the loans that we're working on right now is ground up construction, multifamily. That's
Gotcha.
a huge thing that we are focusing on right now, is working with large developers, large investors, to do those type of loans, like, RV RV parks, mobile home parks, assisted living. There's different things to help to, we're doing a lot of bridge loans, to help to kind of offset, some of the downturn with residential, because, the thing is that when you have interest rates that are, approaching, 6-7% on a conventional loan, people, it's going to pinch the purchasing power, and people are going to think twice to get a loan, buy a house.
Right.
And, I mean, I understand that's the Fed's intent and their design, but the thing is that a lot of loan officers are hurting right now because they're too product specific. A lot of branches that I've seen, they just did refinance, and now their rates are up. I mean, they have no product offer. They just focused on refinance. So the key takeaway, if anyone's watching this and they're in the industry, I'd say, educate yourself on the different products that are out there to get diversified, so you can be successful.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing. And we've seen it a lot right now is the guys that did really well with refinances over the last couple of years are even coming to us saying like, man, like we need to build this purchase. It's like, well, I mean, the problem with purchase is it takes time, right? Like, the one thing that I tend to say about refinance, only people is they're almost like crack addicts, right? Like, it's just like, they're so like, they're just so used to things turning so fast and getting that money so fast that they're not thinking about the long-term, building of the business, right? Building a pipeline, having the future people that are going to buy and continue to grow that, right? And, the people that are purchase oriented tend to have that mindset. They understand that it takes time. They're building relationships with realtors and things like that. So I also like this idea of, using things like commercial or, are you talking like non-QM, DSCR type loans, or are we talking straight commercial?
A little bit of that, a little bit. I mean, that, what I'm mainly focused on, I'm saying like, for example, a 452 unit, ground up construction, multifamily, apartment complex, mixed use development, retail, those type of things, that are more, dealing with very large, investment groups, and helping them to secure funding.
And so how do you find those types of relationships? Are these via referral or kind of how are you finding?
Just I've been in the business so long that people reach out to me for, and I have, close relationships with hedge funds, family offices, that fund those type of transactions. And so, and I've just been in the industry so long, networking. I go to a lot of networking events, and just meet different investors, different people in the industry. So that's really, how I've been able to scale into this side of the industry. And then private lending, we do a lot of bridge loans. A lot of, people need short-term bridge loans for financing. That's something that we offer. So, I mean, I know, again, residential is not dead, but I think, the other thing is that, it has slowed down. One of the things I think is very important is being able to offer, if you are doing residential, you should work with somebody that has a ton of different products like construction loans, HELOC loans, jumbo loans, non-QM, no-doc loans, land loans. Be with somebody that has a ton of different products. Like there's doctor loans, there's professional loans, all these different programs. So that way, when you come into a situation like we're in right now, you can still make it because you have all the products. People right now are wanting to do ground up construction to build their own home because of low builder inventory and how high prices of real estate are.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think the one thing too is just having flexibility. I mean, I think so many people that are like, hey, you know what? Like I'm all conventional. It's like, well, everybody wants to be all conventional, right? Everybody wants to be 20% down a paper, buyers. But, in these sorts of circumstances, I mean, I've seen it many times. We're talking like, well, apparently now the listing agents are going to love FHA buyers. They're going to love VA buyers, whereas the last couple of years, they've kind of gotten the lower end, basically the bad end of the stick or whatever. It's just they're not getting looked at the same light as the conventional cash buyers, things like that. So I do think there's opportunity for, and that's one thing that we've actually seen a big increase in, requests actually, is people are looking to to go after those markets, or again, non-QM, construction. And so when it comes to that stuff, I mean, do you work with like local builders as well that are looking for that? Because obviously a lot of times, I've had conversations with some loan officers who are like, well, builders are bad, but I know as long as they're not the national builders, they typically don't have their, an in-house lender and things like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, so we work with some small builders, but mainly, were you talking about for the primary home, the ground up construction?
Yeah, ground up construction.
Yeah. For primary home, so we're dealing with, either where the person, either the broker or the realtor that's selling the land will reach out to us for a construction loan for their client because they want to build on that land that they're selling. So either the consumer reach out to us or, a small builder that we don't work with any very large builder, like obviously Dark or anything like that, but small builders that have, they're centralized in a local area. Let's just say, Ocala, Florida, and they build, 50 homes a year. They'll send us over somebody to get the one-time closed construction loan. We can do that on a jumbo program, especially in today's market. That's really attractive. People want to build their house. But I think the key thing is the bottom line, if you want to be successful, is having irresistible products and being diversified.
Yeah, I love that. And I know you've done, you've written some books. Talk a little bit about that. I mean, you have here 10 habits of highly successful loan originators. Maybe we can walk through one or two of those and just kind of like, what would you say is kind of the number one or number two, or even the top three things that you would say is the most important thing for loan officers?
So obviously the product diversification. So I think it's critical. The other thing is branding. I think, building a social media, build a following. I think that's you need to be somehow diversified and separate yourself with the brand, so you're not kind of thrown in there with the pit of all the other loan officers or lenders. You can have somewhat of a dominance in your space. Dominating your space is critical. So that's very important. The other thing is, I think that's also really important, and really it's the old cliche, but you got to work like hell. I mean, so you got to work. I mean, and a lot of people, they don't like to work. I work every day. I work weekends. People want to do deals on the weekend. They want to talk on Saturday. They want to talk on Sunday. They want to talk at night. And if you're not doing that, then you're going to be missing opportunities and be missing the boat. So I think that's a very important thing. So it's just, those are my core things that I talk about in the book of Highly Effective Loan Officers. And, if you have that, you're going to attract success. You're going to attract people that want to do business with you. If you have amazing follow-up skills, you will get things done. You will build a great team. So those are my tenets for success.
Man, I love it. I think there's something to be said about that, especially as we're coming into a market like this. Is leads aren't falling out of the sky like they were in 2020 and 21, right? And so having the gumption or the drive to make it happen regardless of the situation. I think that's the other thing too, is like not focusing on things you can't control, right? You can't control on the market. You can't control the rising rates. So how do you continue to grow as a loan officer despite all of the external circumstances? I think that comes down to just focusing on yourself and focusing on growth.
Exactly.
As far as that goes, I mean, I think the sort of the next sort of way I'd want to talk about this is like from a leadership perspective. I mean, you have a team, you've done that. Like, how do you grow into that team leader versus just being an individual LO? What does that take?
That was actually very difficult. I had a hard time doing that because I was so used to being a one-man show, and obviously I started myself and not learning about leadership. And so the thing that the transition for me, it was very difficult because I didn't know about managing and leading people. And so I had a very high turnover when I tried to migrate out of just being a loan officer and then building a team around me, because I didn't know how to communicate well and treat people. So I studied a lot, man. I've read so many books on leadership and management. Books on Jeff Bezos, how Google built their business. Elon Musk. And from that, reading a lot of business management books helped me to kind of modulate and reform my leadership skills. And really, the biggest thing is that you have to give people hope and paint a picture for their future and give them a vision and lead them through that, help people accomplish their goals. And you have to be sincere about it and real. So, that's really, the big thing is, I think if you're going to lead people, is you have to help people to go to the next level, in their life. So just like this iPhone, there's 13 versions of this iPhone. You have to help people go to the next level of their life, whether it's financial, spiritual, economically. So I try to do that the best that I can. And also the social connection, I think, is very important with your team. It's not just about the job; it's about developing relationships.
I love it. I think that's huge, man. It's something that I've been obsessing over recently, just as I'm building the team and understand, same thing, right? Like dealing with turnover, dealing with, maybe not not always like the top production, and understanding that, like, it's one of my mentors actually said, is like, my role as a CEO is to develop my people. Right. And so I was like, oh, that like totally shifted the way I thought about, like, being, it's like, I've always thought like, oh, vision and this and that, but it's like really one of the biggest keys of being the leader is like, you develop your people, you help them level up. If you want the organization to level up, you have to level up as a leader, which means that's going to pull them along with you. So I love that. I think I agree with you, man. Leadership and growing the team is one of the hardest things I think people that are used to doing things themselves have a hard time delegating to other people and being clear about what success looks like. I think that's one of the hardest things, especially for people that are like loan officer salespeople. It's the personality tends to be very much high vision, high sort of like, hey, get this done, but like, no, like not as good at the structure piece. But most employees need structure. They need, processes, procedures, and things like that. And so people forget that it takes some time to build that. So I love the fact that you've built it and taken it all the way to, to a really successful business, right?
Sure.
If you were like, let's just say you were about to start over again today, what would you do? What would you go out there and do to get more business today?
Well, yeah, I mean, so the biggest thing that I wish I would have started earlier, and obviously when I started, it wasn't social media. But today, I would definitely focus hardcore on obviously, starting your social media channel page. But, you have to, even before you do that, you have to have interesting content.
Right.
Things have to be interesting that you talk about. And so, the first thing is, I would say if you're starting today, is really be a student of the industry and understand what the products are, who the players are, the investors. Go to as many, networking events in the lending space as you can, invest the money in doing that, meeting the people, getting the knowledge, developing the relationships. And then also, yes, working on your branding, your social media, so you can drive traffic, I think is very important. And then, if you have that, then you're going to create awareness because you have to get recognized. And then you'll be able to, and then from there, obviously building the team because you need to be able to facilitate the flow of the business. So it's, it's a multi-pronged, step business model. And so, but that's what I would be doing differently is I would have focused more in the beginning on being more diversified with the product knowledge or doing more. Sure. I was very introverted when I first started. I didn't go to networking events. I didn't go to meetups. I was the guy just sitting at my desk working and doing more of those to meet people, and developing those deep relationships with check writers, investors, and then, yeah, I mean, just, creating a very strong brand presence so people can identify you as the lending source, right?
Sure.
I think, or whatever your space is, if you're like, you have some guys, all they do is VA loans. So I'm the veteran lender, and they do very well with that. They focus just on VA, and VA is a massive product. And they've blown up their business. And so focusing on that branding is, I think, is critical.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think, so just a quick sort of expander on that. When you talk about going to networking events, I agree though, when it comes to like product knowledge, spend the first year just understanding products, like be a good loan officer. Like you have to be a good loan officer first before you can do the marketing, before you can buy leads, before you can do other things like that. Like, because if you don't understand how to have conversations about the products, it's gonna be really hard for you to do anything else. But just to kind of talk about the networking, when you talk about networking, you talk about BNIs, or what sort of networking events are you going to? When you're building relationships, how do you build deep relationships? Like, how do you do that?
Like for example, I'm sure in your area, you have, real estate networking events. Like we have a big multifamily networking event here in Houston, and it happens twice a year. And everybody's there, from agency lenders like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, to, developers, builders, investors, and going to those and just, kind of parachuting your way into it and meeting the people there. Right. So I look for those type of events. Like I'm going to an event end of July in Miami. It's a private lending event, so doing those type of things, and that's how you forge relationships. We've met some of the biggest capital providers, note buyers, investors at those networking events, and it's just a great time, because you're in an environment with people that are in your industry, and it just goes really, really well.
Love it. Yeah, and the one sort of, I guess, again, clarifying question is, like, when you have these conversations, are you assuming you're doing follow-up and things like that? Because obviously you can have a good conversation, but then like what happens once you leave that room, right? Do you just keep going to those networking events and meeting those same people? Or is there like a follow-up process that you follow to sort of continue to
Well, I mean, yeah, like let's say it's an investor I want to do business with, and I want to, do loans with them. Yeah, we'll obviously exchange contact information, and I'll follow up with them and add them to my database, and then start, soliciting them or working with them to see if there's any opportunity. Yeah, like you have to, take action on it.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's exactly, yeah. I mean, you're not obviously, no, you don't have to go to the same event every time, but you're always getting something good out of it by going. There's new vendors there, new people that go there. And so, you'll know if you're not getting value. But the ones that I go to, I'm always getting some good takeaways.
Yeah. And I think the key there is, making sure, hey, if you do have a conversation with someone, exchange information, and then making sure that you're actually following up with them if you want to do business with them. Because I think that's the one thing that so many people do, is they go to these networking events, have a good conversation with someone, and that's where it ends, right? And so, like, you can't really build deep relationships with people off of one conversation. So it's
right. No, not at all. I agree.
Yeah, and I figured there was more to it. I just wanted to dig in a little bit to clarity for anybody who's brand new, right? Like just thinking, like, you still got to put in the work. I mean, these people probably have a bunch of people doing that. They are talking to 100 people a night or whatever when they go to these events. So again, how do you stand out, and how do you continue to keep that conversation going? Hey, remember we talked about this XYZ. I mean, I don't even know. Are you taking notes on these people afterwards, and just kind of remember it?
Usually it depends. Yeah, I mean, we exchange. It depends. Some of them, they're vendors, and they have, business cards. They have, pamphlets, websites. If it's an individual person, we might exchange, cell phone numbers. It just depends on who it is. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
We'll start text threads or WhatsApp threads, so.
Well, man, and I know, I think you do some coaching and things like that as well. Is that something you're currently doing at the moment?
We do. We have a real estate university.
Cool.
And the link is, you should have a link to that. It's on our website. So
cool.
Basically, it's my platform that I built. It's not an MLS accredited school, but it's just how to become a top producer And it's basically the things I talked about in our video today. It's in a digital audio library of over 1,000 hours of content. Learning how to become a top producer. So it's not going to teach you mortgage law. It's going to teach you how to sell, how to close, how to get deals in, how to brand, stuff like that.
Love it, man. And so if someone wanted to reach out, learn a little bit more about that, where can they find that?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll make sure we'll link it in the bound.
For sure. I mean, absolutely. You can call or text us at 832-431-6331. Go to the website, officialangelochristian.com. You can see us on our social media. Angelo Christian, YouTube, Instagram, official Angelo Christian. Just hit us up. We're here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll make sure to put all that information in the show notes, just so that anybody who's listening can not have to remember all that said out loud. So you'll be able to just click on the links below. And I think the biggest takeaway for me, as we're kind of closing out here, is that you talk about diversity, right? Having the diversification of knowledge and products to be able to weather the storms like this, whether it be commercial, non-QM, something that's a little bit different to the standard. I mean, if you've been doing only conventional, maybe you do need to branch into FHA and VA, right? And just kind of having options for people, because I think the thing with loan officers is you're really just a solution provider, right? I mean, at the end of the day, like, you're kind of a commodity if you don't know how to find solutions for people's problems.
100%.
That's ultimately what you do. Yeah. And thank you so much, man.
Yeah, this is awesome. I really do. I love your idea of the show that you've created. I think it's phenomenal. It'll really help thousands of people. So I really appreciate it. Very grateful for you letting me come on the show today.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for everybody for listening, and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you. Take care. Bye, guys. Take care.
Bye.